You have often said that your initiates need not be reborn. Why were many of these auspiciously born souls born in 20th century America, a materialistic culture, rather than into a culture where spirituality is encouraged?
Now, let me ask you, why do you come here in this materialistic place unless you have some spiritual ideals in your life? You know, at one time, a disciple of Swamiji was an Orthodox Brahmin, asked him, why did you initiate those who are not Brahmins? And he replied, how do you know that they are not Brahmins? So, those who come here, they are born here, as Ramakrishna said, that I have my own children in far off land whose language I do not know. So there you are. And oftentimes I say, you know, while I was going out for a walk, two of us, we saw a Swami surrounded by girls and women, and we criticized them. Look at that holy man surrounded by women. And then we went back, we saw the same party, and then somehow something drew me back. When the other friend went away, I was to go in my direction. I did not go. I came back. And then I bowed down to this Swami. And he said, to my surprise, would you like to see Holy Mother? I was a boy of 14. I said, Holy Mother, you mean Paramahamsa's wife? Yes, yes. And she was seated right by me. So I bowed down to her, and she kissed me as our mothers kiss, put their hands this way, and then kisses that way. And then she said, son, have I not seen you before? I said, no, mother. You see, mother recognizes her own children, but the children do not recognize mother. And so you see, she sent me to this country to be surrounded by women. All right, go ahead.
If a person speaks the name of God to another at the moment of his death, even if he is unconscious, would that person have realization of God?
I cannot say. It depends upon who is whispering the name, and it's very difficult to answer that question. It depends upon so many things. If the person has already been initiated, then it is true. Then whether you whisper or not, that person will attain liberation. But why be interested in being liberated at death? I want you to be liberated while living here on earth. Realize Him now, here and now. realize that bliss of God in this life. Go ahead.
In one of the last issues of the Prabhupada Bharata, one author says that unless husband and wife have overcome physical relationships, they cannot make any spiritual progress. What is your teaching on this?
Well, I have no teaching. But Sri Ramakrishna said after 2 or 3 children, then live like brother and sister. So I am quoting Sri Ramakrishna.
What is meant by ASA Yoga?
Huh?
ABHYASA. Abhyasa.
Oh, Abhyasa Yoga. Abhyasa means practice. So Abhyasa means practice, practice, practice. And Abhyasa, and there is with viveka, with discrimination. Discriminate between the eternal and non-eternal. And then you realize, you find out, there is one thing, one reality that is eternal, and that is God. And remember one thing, don't be shocked. Everybody may forsake you, but God will never forsake you. Husband, wife, children, you see, they will all forsake you. They may, but God will never forsake you. All right?
After many years in Vedanta, I have an intellectual understanding, having attended many of your lectures. But how can I make further progress and gain an understanding of the heart, develop love for God, and how to obtain His grace?
Intellectual understanding does not help. You have to practice meditation. By intellectual understanding, perhaps you may talk on Vedanta. What good is that? But meditate, meditate, meditate. Intellectualism sometimes brings ego, and spirituality leads you away from ego. You know, Sri Ramakrishna came here as an example who did not read many scriptures or did hear some scriptures. But there was another one disciple, Latu Maharaj, Swami Adhutananda. He did not know anything about scriptures, and he was a servant boy. And he came to Sri Ramakrishna and he recognized in him a great soul. And so he asked Ram Datta, who was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, to have this boy servant come to live with him. And so he allowed him. And Sri Ramakrishna tried to teach him the alphabet and say ka, ka, and he would say ka, ka. So he gave up. Then Swamiji tried to teach him, and to that he said, yeah, your guru could not do anything and you think you can teach me. And he attained the highest knowledge, the supreme knowledge of Brahman. I have had the blessed fortune to see him. No, learning does not give you knowledge of God. But you have to dive deep within your own heart, and there you find God. And when you find Him within yourself, you find Him everywhere. Maharaj at one time said to me, I see God everywhere, in every being. Sheaths are different. Then I cannot teach. But when I come down from that state, then I see your mistakes and try to correct you. Any more questions?
Vivekananda speaks only of 4 yogas. Is there another yoga called the Sahaja?
Sahaja Yoga is the same as it falls within the yogas. For instance, I think I said that in my lecture the other day, that when the food is purified, that means when you can move amongst the sense objects, because senses also take food. But when you move amongst the sense objects without being attached or having aversion to anything, and then your heart becomes purified. When your heart becomes purified, there comes constant recollectedness of God. This is Sahaja Yoga. When you can remember God all the time, under all circumstances, then there arises the knowledge of God. But Maharaj taught us, and he called this Sahaja Yoga, try to keep recollectedness of God as often as you can. Any more?
Could you please tell us who of the direct disciples came to the United States and England?
Oh, yes. Swamiji, Swami Abhedananda, Swami Saradananda. Only Swami Saradananda did not come to the western coast. Swami Trigunatita, he lived in San Francisco. He was the first direct disciple who stayed there as long as he lived. Then Swami Turiyananda. How many did I mention?
5.
So, isn't that enough? So this has become a holy land. America has become a holy land. And Swami Trigunatita, there was a crazy man who threw a bomb at him, and he suffered for 10 or 14 days. But what did he think? He thought of that disciple, that may not any harm come to him. He died immediately. So one of the Swamis, direct disciples, gave his life in this country. Any more question?
One last one, Swami. As a secretary in a hectic office,
Huh?
as a secretary in a hectic office, I find it difficult to chant the mantra when working, and the mind wants to do so. Before and after the working day, I offer the fruits of my labor to the chosen ideal. What I need now is a push from the Lord, for it's obvious I can't do it. Can you offer any concrete suggestions?
Well, what you are doing is fine. That is, while of course you are doing and concentrating upon the work as a secretary, you have to do your duty. But then before and after, as you chant the name of the Lord, that's wonderful. And then again, after your day's work, if you offer the fruits of your work to God, that's also wonderful. So I think what you are doing very well. I don't have to give any push. Now free for all.
Swami, is para identical with God realization?
God consciousness.
God consciousness.
Or consciousness of God.
Swami, last week we were talking about sin.
I was talking about,
Pardon?
I was talking about what?
We're talking about there being no sin in God's eyes. And yet in every religion there's sort of, you might say, bunch of no-nos that you're not supposed to
I
do.
can't hear very well.
What are they there for?
Would you repeat it to me, Chris?
Okay, we were saying last week that there's no sin in God's eyes. But in religion, in all of the religions, there's a set of ethics or a certain way that we should live or whatever you want to call it. What is the real purpose of that?
What's the purpose of
I
ethics?
don't understand.
Well, Swami, first of all, that you said there is no sin in God's eyes.
Oh, there's no sin in God's eye.
Yes, and then the question is, that being the case, why do all the religions produce a number of commandments telling you there are things which you must not do?
Yes, of course. In order that you can realize God. But you see, you are misunderstanding the whole thing. There is no sin in God's eye. Very true. But does that mean that we can go ahead and do anything we please? That would take us away from Him. But God will wait patiently. You'll have to reincarnate and reincarnate until you wake up and try to live an ethical life. That's why again in every religion, ethical life is the very foundation of spiritual life. So where is the contradiction there?
So I was wondering why it's there in every religion.
Huh?
I was wondering why it is there in every religion.
What about ethical conduct?
Ethics, yeah.
If surely because in order that you can find him, you can realize him.
Thank you.
You see, there is no sin in God's eye, very true. But that does not mean that you can live any kind of life. Then again, God waits patiently. As I said, everybody can leave you, but God will never leave you. But in order that you can approach him in this very life, so there are ethical conduct, and there are also practices of meditation and discrimination, and all these are there. And that removes all sin. Removes all wrongdoings. I would not utter the word sin. You see, when somebody began to read the Bible to Sri Ramakrishna, he couldn't stand it. Sin, sinner, sinner, sinner. Nonsense. The rascal who says I am a sinner becomes a sinner. And it is Swamiji in his lecture in the Parliament of Religions said, it's a sin to call a man sinner. Hear, O ye children of immortal bliss. That's your birthright. Now I get the idea?
Yeah, I think so.
Swami, it's somewhat the same idea. If you want to overcome a bad thought,
Yes.
do you concentrate on how you would like to be, or positive thinking, or what?
When you are thinking of God, all kinds of thoughts come to you. Very bad thoughts also come. Perhaps I won't tell you what thoughts come to you. I can read your mind. But then forget politics. And then sometimes there is a trick. Let the mind, let it go anywhere it pleases, but keep watch. I give the example of flying kite. When there's a storm, you let it go. And then at the right moment, you bring it back. So let the mind go wherever it pleases. Don't try to curb the thoughts, but keep watch over them. And then say after 10 minutes, tell your mind, haven't you had enough? Come back. Practice that for some time. You see what happens as you try to concentrate your mind, you don't know when the mind has given up the thought of God and is thinking of other things. You don't know that. suddenly you realize that you have not been thinking of God. But instead of doing that, let the mind run. After, say, 5 minutes, let the mind run anywhere it pleases for 10 minutes. And then bring it back.
But Swami, while your mind's running away, and you're still, while your mind isn't running away,
Yeah.
and you're still saying your mantra, it's still doing some good.
Yeah, you're still saying your mantra, that's very good. But if you want good effect, then control your mind and let it come back to God.
Is it, well, last week you said that if one meditates in the same place every day, that place will take on a good feeling for meditation.
Yes, that's true.
Is that why people wear chatters, a meditation cloth?
Huh?
Is that why people wear
Yeah,
chatters?
no. They wear a cloth in order to cover their beads. Because I don't want them to see that you are very spiritual and counting your beads. I used to make joke of my grandfather. The old man, he used to have his beads, and I'd say, Grandpa, what are you thinking of? Law case, or how many cases you are going to get tomorrow?
Swami, if you can't do the Guru's instructions for a day or two because of outside circumstances,
Yes.
or even laziness, or depression,
Yeah.
what can you do? Is there anything you can do to make up for that lost?
No.
No.
But only thing is, even for 5 minutes,
Yes.
keep up the practice. Once you give up, then it is difficult again to begin. So even for 5 minutes, think of God. You don't have to sit and do that.
Yes. Even if you bow down to the shrine and offer
Yes,
fruits and so
sure.
on and so forth.
That's very good.
Because I know that I know how I feel, and I've talked to other devotees who feel the same way, very guilty.
No, don't have any guilt feeling.
I'm afraid my big toe might fall off or something. I don't know. It's terrible.
Well, we've finished. 9 o'clock.
May I make an announcement?
Oh yes, that's right.
If there is any devotee who has a 16mm movie camera with a zoom lens, please see Ananda Prana after the reading tonight. That's now. And there will be no more readings this month.
Until January. And I can announce that I think that is the day Swami Shraddhananda from Sacramento will be here with us. And he's a wonderful Swami, a disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj.
Is that Shivananda?
Huh?
Is that that Shivananda?
Shivananda. You read his book,
For seekers of God.
Huh?
For seekers of God.
For Seekers of God. Very good.
Is that January 1st he'll be here, Swami?
January 2nd, I think.